Okay, Gypsy Rose Blanchard has released episode 1 of her 4-part miniseries. And episode 1 is Before the Breakthrough, My Life in Prison. Now, this is on her YT channel, her Gypsy Rose Blanchard podcast channel. Now, I hate that I have to say this. I really hate that I have to say this. I am not a supporter of Gypsy Rose. I'm on the anti-side, right? I'm on the anti-side of the Gypverse, but this episode was not difficult to watch. I mean, like I said, she just told you she's talking about her life in prison. And full transparency here, I spent 3 years in prison, so maybe that's why this was easy for me to watch. And I could actually, I really hate saying this, but I'll give credit where credit's due. I could actually relate to her on a lot of things she was saying about prison. I really could. I mean, that doesn't change how I feel about her as a person, but I could relate with this one. So she starts the episode by she's explaining the difference between jail and prison. And a lot of people really don't know the difference between jail and prison. Like she said, when you think of prison, you're thinking of, tiny cells and iron bars, and no, that's jail. Prison, she explained it as kind of being almost, like a college, a high school type setting. It is, prison, y'all ain't gonna believe it, prison is a piece of cake to get through. You have a lot of freedom in prison. You have a lot of movement in prison. I mean, you can't do whatever you want, but you have movement. You can go to the library. You're going out of your housing unit to go to chow, healthcare. You get yard, patio time, rec time, all kinds of stuff. And, there's Bible studies they offer. The prison I was in didn't offer, there was no funding for, college classes or anything like that. But anyways, let's keep going. This isn't about me. She did say that some of the best times she had were in prison. Again, I can relate. And she has said before that she felt freer than she ever felt when she was in prison. Again, I can relate. I mean, she had it quite a bit easier than I did. I went the whole 3 years there. I didn't have not a dime on my books. I didn't have nobody writing me. I didn't have anybody to call. I didn't get no money on my books, but thankfully, there were some wonderful women in there that looked out for me, because a lot of people don't realize this either. You don't get anything for free in prison. You have to pay for everything. Your soap, your pads, they will give you some toilet paper, your deodorant, your toothpaste, any kind of snacks you want, your shower shoes, a pair of tennis shoes, sweats, everything. You pay for everything, shampoo, conditioner. Nothing's free in prison. They talk about you get 3 hots and a cot. That's all you're getting is 3 skimpy meals and a place to lay your head. Everything costs in prison. So she explains, that she had pretty good time in prison most of the time. I can agree. Anyways, same with her prison as when I was in, is you had to work. She said she worked janitorial for quite some time. I worked in the CO dining room myself. It was pretty cool. Anyways, and then she says she did join some GED classes. It took her about 5 years to get through, because she says she only had about a 2nd grade education. She said, she could add and subtract numbers, but she didn't know how to multiply or divide or none of that. So it took her some time, because you have to know algebra and all that for the GED. And then after her GED, she had worked in the warehouse for some time. She said that was a horrible job. And then she also had worked for photography in the visiting room, and then she went back to her janitorial. She makes sure to tell us she didn't really have any problems with any of the COs, and usually don't have a problem with COs. If you're respectful, they're respectful for the most part. She tells us she never got in any fights in there. Verbal altercations, yes, but no physical fights. She says she didn't know where she fit in when she got there. That's a common thing. You don't know. It's all new. She said at first she hung out with the mean girls, and then she realized she did not fit in with the mean girls. So then she just kind of found her people, basically. She says she spent most of her time on the phone with with Christy, her dad, with Ken, with Ryan, with pen pals, as she said. You know, all the various men she was writing and receiving money from. So I almost think that would make your time harder. If you're in constant communication with the outside world, I think it would make the time harder because, you know, you're stuck, but time's moving on out here in the real world. So I think that would be harder myself. But she thinks it made her time easier. So I don't know. She claims that she only had some minor violations while she was there. You know, some minor contraband. She had a contraband ring once. She got a violation for giving Ken an open mouth kiss, their very first kiss in the visiting room, which is not allowed for obvious reasons. You know, you could be passing something through the mouth, you know. So she claims she was very rarely in trouble. And she says now, oh, and then she speaks on the honor dorm. She made it to the honor dorm. And they would have incentive nights. They do nice things for the inmates from time to time. She said they had incentive nights at their prison where they would go to the gym and they would get to watch a movie on a Friday night. But I'm jealous. She said they had a microwave in her prison. We didn't get a microwave. No. And it would have been great to have one. But anyways, moving on. She said, this was a loaded question. She said recently somebody had asked her, did she enjoy prison? And she said that's a loaded question. And I completely understand where she's coming from. Ooh, it kills me to agree with her on so many points. It's killing me. Anyways, she said, you know, certain aspects of it, she enjoyed the freedom she had. And, you know, let me tell you a quick little story. I remember when I got out, I had to move here to this big city because I didn't have anywhere to parole to. My family has not spoken to me since I got arrested and got into trouble, 2017. You know, they haven't spoken to me. So I had to parole here to, it was a sober living facility I transferred to in this big city. And I remember laying in the bed at this sober living facility crying because I actually wanted to go back. Because, you know, life was easy in there. It's simple. You know what to expect. You know what to expect every day at this time. You know what I'm saying? It was easy. I remember. So I cried because I wanted to go back. As crazy as that sounds. But, you know, I got over that pretty quickly. Anyway, so that's enough of that. Let's move on. Then when she talks about going before the parole board, in my state, we don't have that. When you're up for parole, that's it. You know, when you go in, you know the date you're going to leave. When you go to prison, you know the date you're leaving. Unless, of course, you get some good time or you do something to get more time. She says they asked her in front of the parole board, of course, about her crime. And they asked, and she says she claims she told them that she feels like 2 lives were taken through this crime, her mother's and Nick's. And she claims that she felt guilt about it. I don't tend to believe her. I think she just knew what the parole board wanted to hear. But that's just my opinion. And then they asked her, does she think she's a celebrity? And she says, no, she's just Gypsy Rose. Now let's talk about Ryan Anderson very quickly. He got a cameo request from Sheena, from Big Sheen. And she wanted a Father's Day video of Ryan talking about what a wonderful father Ken is and how great Ken is, you know, and how he's obsessed with Ken. And, you know, she's trolling him. And I got to give it to Ryan. I got to give it to Ryan here. He made the cameo. But he just said, you know, he just told her thanks for the money and how you doing, Ken. And now you got to look at me for a couple minutes. And, yeah, he took the money. But I don't blame him. You know what? If I was a public figure like he was, and they did me like that, you better believe I'm going to take that money. I'm going to make them a video and take that money. You better believe it. You know, I would have said everything they wanted me to say, too. Just to show that they're not getting to me, you know. So anyways, that was everything. I mean, and like I said, it really wasn't hard to watch. But let me know did you watch it? Or did you see Ryan do his cameo? Let me know your thoughts on all of this.